What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rob. I like to play games, and welcome back to the Commander Corner. Today, we're going to take a look at the Mystery Booster Commander box, and one of the commanders there that had caught my attention. I hope you enjoy. I wanted to dive into the Rule Breaker, so let's get into that right away here today. Alright, and here we go. The commander that we're looking at today is Valko Indorian. 3 mana and 4 mana, so 3 of anything in a black for a 2/4 legendary creature, human wizard. We'll cover the rule breaker in just a second, but Phyrexian creatures you control have menace and lifelink. That is correct. We are doing a Phyrexian themed deck this week. Something I've been wanting to build for quite some time, and honestly, I think Valko gave us the perfect opportunity. Now, his special ability here, Rule Breaker. A deck with this commander can have Phyrexian cards of any color identity and any basic lands. Rule Breaker being a new thing that was released with the Mystery Booster Commander Edition. There are a number of cards that have the Rule Breaker ability, allowing you to use cards and build slightly outside of the general rules of Commander. With that, this one really stuck out to me as one that I wanted to build. I like that he has the Anthem effect. I like that he allows us to basically play all of the Phyrexians. However, when we get into this, you're going to see a little bit of a challenge that comes with building this style of a deck. So here is the deck. List will be in the description as always. So the way I built this deck is, well, obviously it's Phyrexian Tribal, so we're using as many of the best Phyrexians that I could think of and find to put in there. First thing you're going to notice though is when we look at our land base, there's a lot of multicolored lands, or at least lands that can produce mana of any color. This is because the only dual lands we're able to run are those lands specifically, and most of them I have are using for creature spells in particular, so we are a relatively heavy creature deck, but that's okay too. Then with that, we were able to use basic lands. So you'll notice I have a number of basics here. Swamps, obviously, we're a mono black deck, but we have plains, we have mountains, we have islands, and we have forests, simply so that we can cast these Phyrexians throughout the entire game. Now, what is our strategy? Well, we have a twofold strategy here. Primarily, we are going to be looking at Proliferate as our options here, because I leaned heavily into Toxic/Infect, so poison counter. So, yeah, I know, get it out there now. It's a poison deck. But we also leaned into the incubation tokens. It was the best way for me to kind of encompass all things Phyrexia without leaning heavily into the Praetors. So, without further ado, let's start with our Proliferate package, because this is really going to be the primary engine on how we are going to win. We're going to start with the Blightbelly Rat, real simple creature here, 2 mana 2/2 Toxic 1, so when it deals combat damage to a player, that creature deals combat damage. Players dealt combat damage by this creature also get a poison counter. Sorry. Twisted up my words a bit, but so whenever this creature deals damage, they get 1 poison. Cool, great. And when it dies, Proliferate. Awesome. Everything we're looking at. Contagion class. When this artifact enters, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. 4 and a tap, Proliferate. Perfect. What we want. Metastatistic Evangel. 2 mana 3/1. Whenever another non-token enters, Proliferate. Thrumming Bird. Pretty much a staple in any counters-based deck. You guys know this one pretty well. Whenever it deals combat damage, Proliferate. Bloated Contaminator. 3 mana 4/4 trample Toxic 1, so it's getting in there. And it deals combat damage to a player, Proliferate. We want ways to get these counters on creatures as fast as humanly possible. Alright, we're running Bramaz. This is from the March of the Machine Commander deck, actually. 2 of anything for a white-black 3/4. Whenever you cast a Phyrexian creature or artifact creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. Cool, that's exactly what we want. We want to deal with the incubation tokens anyways. And then at the beginning of your end step, if a Phyrexian died under your control, Proliferate. Cool. Does everything we're looking to do. Tekathal, whenever you proliferate twice, and you can pay 1 of anything and double Phyrexian blue, so that's what this symbol is here. If you have not seen that before, that means you can either pay blue or 2 life. Remove 3 counters from among artifacts, creatures, and or planeswalkers you control. Put an indestructible counter on Tekathal. Probably not doing that too much, but he does say whenever you Would proliferate? Proliferate twice instead. Absolutely beast of a card there. We've got Containment Grafter, 5 mana, 5/5, trample with Toxic 1. So again, when it deals damage, they get a poison counter. And whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to one or more players, proliferate. And then Corrupted, at the beginning of your end step, if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, draw a card. Then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Great bit of ramp, great way for us to, get more of those poison counters out there. And really, with the way that I've kind of built this, getting 1 player to 3 isn't all that difficult. And then lastly, in this area, we've got Norrin's Choirmaster. It's a 5 mana, 5/4 flying first strike, and whenever a commander you control enters the battlefield or attacks, proliferate. Typically, we're just going to be... we're not really going to be attacking with our commander all too often. He's mostly there as the Anthem effect, but that's not a bad thing either. Okay, so we got the Proliferate engine out of the way. Let's take a look at the Infect and tokens. Again, these are going to be the main body of our deck and what we're looking to do. So we'll start with the Infect cards. We've got Billows Skulldweller, 1 mana, 1/1 with Death Touch, Toxic 1. Again, deals damage, gives them a counter. Venerated Rot Priest, 1 of anything, or it's a 1 green, 1/2, Toxic 1. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. Cool. Ichor Rats, 1 of anything, double black for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player gets a poison counter. Awesome. This is going to be a primary way for us to start that Proliferate engine fast. So we want to try and mulligan to this card if we can early, or get to it as fast as we can. It also has Infect. Skithiryx, the Blight Dragon. This thing's gonna get you some hate. We all know it. We all love him though, but he is definitely a menace to deal with. It is a 5 mana 4/4 flying Infect, and he can pay one. You can pay 1 black to give him haste and 2 black to regenerate him. Again, simply just a dangerous card that out of nowhere can end the game. We are then also running Vishkarex, the Doom Hive. This is from the All Will Be One commander. He is 2 of anything, white, black, green for a 3/3 Menace, Toxic 1. Perfect. And when he enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block, as well as he gets +1/+1 for each poison counter your opponents have. So he's going to turn into a massive threat very quickly. Granted, he's only going to put 1 poison counter when he deals damage himself. However, he's going to be hard to deal with, and that's okay. Let's look at those incubation tokens now as we go through this. So we've got Ichor Drinker. It is a black 1/1 with lifelink. Pay a black, exile it to incubate 2. Now, incubation is a special type of counter that is unique to the Phyrexians specifically. Basically, it is a token that enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, or whatever incubation is. And then you can pay 2 to flip it into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature token. So it is a way for us to continuously proliferate counters onto something to make bigger and bigger creatures throughout the game, as well as give us blockers and other things for our key Phyrexians. We're also running Progenitor Exarch, double X and a white. When it enters the battlefield, incubate X 3 times, and then you can tap it to transform the token without having to pay the 3. Wonderful card for what we're trying to do here. Gift of Completion, 1 of anything in a black, enters the battlefield, incubate 3. Whenever a Phyrexian you control dies, surveil 1. Now, we're not really doing too much of a reanimation thing here, but setting up our draws each and every turn whenever a Phyrexian dies is not a bad thing either. We're running Norrin's Inquisitor, 1 of anything in a white for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, incubate 2, and whenever a permanent you control transforms into a Phyrexian, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Again, making our incubation tokens even bigger. Bloated Processor, 2 of anything in black for a 3/2, sacrifice a Phyrexian, he gets a +1/+1 counter, and when he dies, you get to incubate X, where X is its power. So at base, it's a 3 mana 3/2 that when it dies makes you another 3/3 creature, which is awesome. But say your opponent's like, oh, I'm going to board wipe. Okay, well, I'm going to sack everything to the Prosecutor, make him huge, and then make a really large incubation token. So great card for us to have in here. Completed Huntmaster is a 3-mana 2/3, 1 sack a creature to incubate 3. Not too, nothing special there, but again allows us to dodge removal, dodge things that would help us with that to, create something that we can bring back. Again, Phyrexians are all about, that everlasting life, turning, flesh into machines. Sounds like other things that I know about, but we will definitely be covering that when that becomes released. So, but yeah, very cool card for us here. Elvish Vat Keeper, 1 of anything for a black-green 3/3, enters the battlefield, incubate 2, and then you can pay 5 to transform target incubator token you control. So, a little expensive on that transform, however, it does double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So at base, this thing it comes into play as a 3/3, then, a turn later or something, you pay 5 to make a 4/4. Seems pretty strong to me. We're running Rhea Ivar, Bane of Bladehold. 2 of anything, white-black for a 3/4 battle cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0. Cool, great. We're kind of an aggressive style anyways. We want to be able to get in there. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, the next time target creature would deal combat damage to a player, to 1 or more players this combat, prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, create that many 1/1 Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't be blocked. So if we're swinging with something big, but we're like, you know what? I don't know if we're actively going to, do a whole lot, or you know what? I'd rather have more bodies on the board so I can spread out that infection. This is really going to help with that, giving us a massive army of mites that, again, our commander is going to give lifelink and menace to. A couple of 2/2s swinging in with Toxic 1 may not do a lot, but if we be like, you know what, this one doesn't hurt you, but then we get more creatures that do more Infect and Toxic, it's going to be really powerful for what we're trying to do here. We are also running Essence of Orthodoxy. It's a 5-mana 3/3 flying. Whenever it enters the battle, it or another Phyrexian enters the battlefield, incubate 2. Just another way for us to create more of those incubation tokens. We are also running Glissa, Herald of Predation. This is the 5-mana 3/5 Glissa here. At the beginning of combat, you can incubate 2 twice, transform all incubator tokens, or Phyrexians you control gain First Strike and Death Touch. Again, very strong for what it is that we are looking to do. And then lastly, we have the Blight Titan. 6-mana 6/6 with Death Touch. Whenever Blight Titan enters or attacks, mill 2 cards, then incubate X, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Simply a very strong, very powerful effect there for what it is that we're looking to do. Speaking of strong and powerful cards, if you like this kind of content and enjoy watching or seeing breakdowns of unique Magic the Gathering commander decks, please consider giving me a subscription so you don't miss another video. And with that, let's get into the next part of our thing here, and that is we're going to go over just the standard things that most commander decks have, and that's going to be our draw, our ramp, and our removal. We'll start with our draw package here. That is going to start with Deadly Dispute for 1 of a black. Additional cost, sacrifice an artifact or creature. We're creating artifact tokens constantly with our Incubate, so we can always sack those off if we need to draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. Great card there. Night's Whisper, similar vein, except this is pay 2 mana, draw 2 cards, and lose 2 life. Black Market Connections. I am so happy that this card came out in the Doom Prevails precon for Marvel. Put a really expensive and almost stable card for black down to a very reasonable price. Make sure to pick up your copies. We're also running Gix, Yawgmoth's Praetor. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. But we can also pay 7 mana, 4 and 2 black to discard X cards, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells among them without paying their mana cost. Great card. We're also running the original Glissa Sunslayer. This is a 3-mana 3/3 First Strike Death Touch. Deals combat damage to a player, choose 1, draw a card, lose 1 life. Primarily what we're going to look to be doing with her. Destroy target enchantment. Very good ability for, removing those pesky enchantments like Rhystic Studies, Mystic Remoras, Smothering Ties, all those good things. And then the third ability is remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. Probably not going to do that too often, but if we're playing against a deck that has a lot of +1/+1 counters on it, or is distributing a ton of -1/-1 counters to us, this might be worth it. Infectious Injury, 3 mana, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, and each opponent gets a poison counter. Again, Infect is our primary win condition here, so just a way to just give everyone that Infect is great. Izuri, Stalker of Spheres, is a 4 mana 3/3. When it enters, you may pay 3 if you do proliferate twice, and whenever you proliferate, draw a card. As you've noticed, we got a lot of that going on, so this seems like an auto-include for us. We're also running Ixhal, Scion of Atraxa, one of anything white, black, green. This is from the All Will Be One commander for a 2/5 Flying Vigilance Toxic 2. So it's the first time we've seen a higher toxic number. That means whenever she deals damage, you're going to get 2 poison counters rather than the 1. And then Corrupted at the beginning of your end step. Each opponent who has 3 or more poison counters exiles the top card of their library face down. You may look at it and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Absolutely diabolical. Honestly, between Ixhal and Vigorous, I love them both. I wanted to build a Abzan deck around Phyrexia, just could not get it to work. Then I saw Valko, and I kind of combined those thoughts together and have been running with it. Let's go over our removal package real quick here. We've got Cankerbloom. This one doesn't require a whole lot of explanation. It is a pretty straightforward card that almost everyone has seen at some point. Drown and Ichor, -4/-4, and then Proliferate. Again, everything that we're looking to do. Go for the throat, pretty standard. Destroy target non-artifact creature card. Amazing. Pheresis Outbreak, 3 mana. Each opponent gets a poison counter, then each creature your opponents control get -1/-1 for each poison counter its controller has. Early game, this is going to wipe out a swarm. Late game, this may just board wipe your opponents, allowing you to finish out the game. Toxic Deluge, pretty standard mono black removal spell. If you'll notice, all of the non-creature spells in this deck are black. That's because Valko only changes the rules for creatures, not spells, so we are pretty much stuck in mono black for that. But Toxic Deluge, very straightforward card. Vraska's Fall, 3 mana, each opponent sacrifices a creature and gets a poison counter. Again, Edict effects are okay. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I don't like giving our opponents choices, but we wanted an early way to get a poison counter on every opponent so that we can proliferate them out of existence. Withering Torment, again, standardized card. Massacre Worm, I'm fairly certain you've all seen this as well. 6 mana, 6/5. When this creature enters, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. This thing has swung so many games, it is not even funny. And then lastly, we're using Kindred Dominance. Choose a creature type. We choose Phyrexian. Destroy all creatures that aren't of the chosen type. Now, notably, our commander is not a Phyrexian. He is a human wizard, so we will lose him. However, if we're getting to the point where we're casting Kindred Dominance, I'm pretty sure we're at the point where we can win the game. Lastly, let's take a look at our ramp package before we move on to our maybe board here. We've got Dark Ritual, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Armored Scrap Gorger. This is an interesting one for this deck as it's a 2 mana 0/3. It gets +3/+0 as long as it has 3 or more oil counters on it. You can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Cool, we need something like that because of all the colors that we're running in here, but we can't run dual lands. And whenever Armored Scrap Gorger becomes tapped, exile a target card from a graveyard and put an oil counter. So this allows us to eat cards out of our opponent's graveyards whenever we tap him for mana, and then eventually just become a 3/3 beater if we need it. Fellwarstone, I'm not the biggest fan of Fellwarstone. It's been growing on me, but I liked it in this deck because we are 5 colors in the fact that our creatures all have different mana costs. They're not just mono black, so this allows us to another way to get mana of any color for us, more or less. Unconverted, it's a toxic 1 mirror that you can pay 2 life to add a mana of any color. Cool. Plague Mirror is an Infect mirror that taps to add 1 mana. Cool, exactly what we need. Chromatic Lantern, this seemed like an auto-include for me, simply because lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, as well as it taps for any color. Perfect for what we're trying to do. Oops. Give me a second. There we go. We're also running Glistening Sphere, which is a 3 mana rock that enters tapped. Not something I'm usually happy with. However, this does proliferate, adds 1 mana of any color, and then when it's corrupted, we can add 3 mana of any color. So if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters on it, we get to add 3 mana of any color. Solid inclusion, in my opinion. And then lastly, we've got Urza's Incubator. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less. Obviously, we're going to call Phyrexia. Phyrexian. Alright, that about wraps up the main parts of the deck here. As you can see, there are a few other cards. I'll let you explore those yourself in the link below. With that, let's get into some expensive add-ons here if you want to make this deck even stronger. We're going to start off with Ancient Tomb. Game changer for a reason. Add 2 colorless, deals 2 damage to you. We've got a lot of big spells, as I'm sure you saw. I feel this would be a great inclusion if you have one in your arsenal. We can't talk about Phyrexians without talking about the big one of them all, Atraxa. This is the OG Atraxa that we're looking to use here. This is the green, white, blue, black, flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink. You know it, and at the beginning of your end step, Proliferate. I almost made her an auto-inclusion because of that effect alone. However, she is a bit pricier, and I felt the deck could work without her as displayed here. Deadly Relic doesn't really require much explanation. I'm sure you've all have seen this. The free commander spells are always a great inclusion, even if they are a bit pricey. This one's a little more on the cheaper side comparatively, but still a great inclusion if you have him. We're also looking at Mondrak, Glory of Dominus. It's a 4-mana 4/4 Phyrexian. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Awesome. And then you can pay 1 of anything and 2 white Phyrexian mana. Sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures to put an indestructible counter on Mondrak. Just a really powerful card, but an expensive one. Children of the Apocalypse. This card does not require any explanation here. 4 mana 4/5 death touch, draw a card, gain 2 life. Opponent draws, they lose 2 life. Straightforward and will get destroyed quickly, but if it doesn't, it will ruin your opponent's lives. We are also looking at, in the maybe board here, Elshnorn, Mother of Machines. So, Mommy of the Elshnorn, 5 mana 4/7 Vigilance. Permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger an additional time. So, Roaming Throne effect. And permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponent's control to trigger. So, a wonderful stacks piece there. We've also got the 6 mana Vorinclex. If you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many counters on that permanent or player instead. That sounds exactly like what our deck is trying to do here. Bit of an expensive card though. Again, it's over $50 at this point. But it is definitely worth it if you have it in your collection or you wish to take this deck to the next level. Speaking of which, that is another way you could build this deck, is all Praetors. Maybe that's an idea you have. Share your list with me in the comments below. And lastly, in the maybe board here, we've got Elshnorn, Grand Cenobite. Literally just the OG here. 7 mana, 4/7 Vigilance. Creatures you control get +2/+2. Creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. Felt it was a very strong inclusion. Didn't quite make it here, but definitely worth considering if you want to go that route. So with that, that is going to wrap things up here today for Valko Indorian. If you have any other commanders from the Mystery Booster Commander Edition that you'd like me to showcase here, please leave a comment below. If this video has, given you some ideas, I love hearing them as well. I try to respond as much as possible. And lastly, if this has earned your subscription, please consider dropping me that subscribe. It means the world to me. Coming up on Wednesday, we've got the Week 6 for our Precon League coming up. That'll be great and exciting. Sorry there wasn't a video for Week 5. The game itself that I had recorded, truthfully, just was not all that exciting. I'll just cover it real quick. Bevins won. He took a 50-minute turn, taking like 3 turns in a row. Really kind of just blew the wind out of our sails and won the game there. Coming up in September, I have a new Let's Play I'm looking to be doing. A little bit away from Magic, but it is going to go back to my roots, and I hope you all would enjoy that, as well as give it a watch when the time comes. That'll be beginning in September. With that, though, we're going to wrap things up, and I do appreciate all of your support here over the last few months. It means the world to me, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and until next time, my name is Rob, I like to play games, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everybody.